Hello and good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our first webinar. My name is David Juniper, and I'm the Group Event Director for Call and Contact Centre Expo. I'm joined today by Mark Finnegan from Ringcentral. Good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon, David, and everybody on the call.
So the agenda for today's session, there'll be a presentation by Mark, followed by a Q&A. We'd like to make this interactive, so please use the Q&A button at the bottom to ask any questions throughout Mark's presentation, and we'll follow up with those following that presentation. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you do have any technical issues, best thing to do is just wait 10 seconds to see if there's a lag on your Wi-Fi and see if the system catches up. If that is a prolonged issue, then please close down the webinar and re-enter through the link on your email that you've been provided, and that should start you up again. So I think that's it. I hope you look forward to Mark's presentation. I hand over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everybody. It's a good start because I've been saying good morning all afternoon, so I'm off to a great start. I'm going to talk to you roughly for 20-30 minutes around a title around customer expectations in a post-pandemic landscape. I mean, it's an interesting one, and obviously kind of top of mind for most people today, I suspect. So my role in Ringcentral, first of all, is a contact center lead. And my role really is to work with our customers, not from a technology perspective, but from a business perspective. So understanding what we're trying to drive and bringing that back towards our solutions to have a look at adoption around the actual services and solutions. So it's a really interesting role. So you get to see a lot of things you can influence directly and a lot of things that are going on in the general landscape surrounding contact centers. And I'm a fairly honest northerner, so I'll take that really nice title of customer expectations in the post-pandemic landscape and kind of turn it into connected today's customers, be ready for tomorrow. Yeah, the environment we work in today is really, really fluid. We're not 100% sure what's going to happen, but we can look at kind of what's been happening over the last few months, and that sets really a good trend for what we're seeing and whatever the new normal looks like. And we'll discuss that in a little bit more detail shortly. So I think the golden rule is there's no magic application for customer experience. It tends to be a sum of many things. And when they're done well, we drive great customer experience. And some of that's the customer and the channels that they contact us on. Some of that is the agent experience. And some of that is kind of that what we would traditionally call that back office. And that back office, that collaborative experience, when all of that is happening in harmony, kind of drives that better first call resolution through the channel of choice and ultimately leads to that better customer experience. So what I'm going to talk about today is really around these topics. I won't stick to them exactly, but we're going to touch around these really. So better service from anywhere, the customer experience, our engagement in that, collaborative, what that brings, and then that final piece around, building your business around your customers. I suppose that's a paradigm change in that traditionally many years ago, we kind of built our business and we just expected customers to talk to us in whatever way that we felt was right. And that's a really big shift in thought patterns that's been happening over the last few years, really. And evolving customer expectations is being driven by the development of technology and spawning those new omnichannel connections and engagement. And that in itself is an extremely fluid environment to keep up with. So today's Apple messaging, WhatsApp, what's coming tomorrow, we don't know. And some of these insights into the challenges and opportunities created by this pandemic we'll have a look at and what we've seen as Ringcentral. A few what work moments, and I'll discuss as I go through kind of the relevance of how some businesses have responded to those situations and how these experiences have shaped kind of customer expectations for better in the most. Occasionally, there has been some hiccups along the way. And what we're really looking to do is looking at the best way businesses can prepare their businesses to really to thrive in this, whatever new normal looks like. So better service from anywhere is probably something that most of us have experienced either directly or via our customers. So servicing customers needs to be effortless. What we've actually seen is, when the pandemic hit, what happened was voice services got hit really, really badly. And we had to move to a digital deflection if we were lucky. And what I mean by that is that we brought in kind of WhatsApp, we brought in chat, we brought in email as the way to deflect from voice services, but still talk to our customers. And ultimately going forward, we need to have a look at, how we protect against similar disasters, be that whatever it may. But, I suppose a second surge of this is what everybody's top of mind about at the moment. Enabling remote agents with flexible schedules, So the ability to move from the office to remote is incredibly important, but also that flexibility gives you a much bigger catchment area. So no longer do you have to look for agents in kind of 5 miles of the building you operate in, but now we have kind of a more diverse and more open employment that we can go and look for. So we can look at hiring the best talent wherever they are, because we're not looking at that particular localized collaboration. Connecting agents through collaboration tools. So I touched on it just a second ago, but how do we make sure that not only can the customer talk to the agent, pretty fundamental in a contact center, but how can that agent talk to their supervisors, how their supervisors can talk to their managers, how the agents can talk to the back office, all driving this first call resolution. But not only that, the ability for remote agents to feel involved. So asynchronous conversation. So it could be a conversation that's ongoing that they could come off shift, but they can come back to later and still see where they were in that conversation. So it doesn't all have to be real time. And the big concern around, I suppose, people working from home is how do you track and manage performance? How do you look at these people that were traditionally in the office? How do you make sure that those calls are being answered? Schedule and optimize at scale. So once you have those agents that you can't see that are doing a good job, how do we make sure we retain those agents, that we have better quality, that we continue to train, that we continue to scale? And I think our community as a society talks about new normal a lot now, and how our professional lives will be altered by this pandemic. Understandably, I think work from home policies are kind of the cornerstone of that conversation. Remote work is a critical enabler in here in lockdown lockdown regulations, and it's going to probably continue to be for future, whether it's this particular emergency or it's future emergencies. What has been proven, it is possible to work from home. In fact, in a lot of organizations, they've seen a very positive engagement working from home, whether that's through employee retention or it's through simply at the finance level, the amount of money that's being saved on real estate or on expenses and that kind of thing. And there's been a very recent report from Gartner, and it looks like, many workers will continue to work from home permanently. In that particular report that went to many COEs, they were talked about either 20%, up to 20% of the workforce being allowed to work from home, because it was proving to greater productivity, higher job satisfaction, which is translating into profitability for their employers. So it's great. We have seen some positives, if that's the right thing to say from this. And the working norms have definitely changed, So remote working, from our client perspective, from what they're telling us, from that Gartner report, is here to stay. There is no doubt whatsoever that digital is on the rise. And customers want to service a lot more. I think the guiding principle really is that somebody tried to explain this, and I'll try and say it in one breath. If work is something that we do and not somewhere that we go, then that means we shouldn't have to go somewhere to get the things we need in order to do what we do. That's a really, really complicated sentence. So I'll try and put that in more simple terms. We just need to be able to access the resources of our workplace outside of the office. That's whether you're a back office worker, whether you're an agent, or whether you're a supervisor or a manager. And cloud services if there was any ever doubt about cloud, what pandemic has done is really kind of taken away those last few barriers. You know, it actually enables virtual workplaces and how we get to those virtual workplaces. And there's a really good quote at the bottom here from Frost and Sullivan. You know, I would take it with a slight pinch of salt in that it's only from March, but the retention rate in kind of busy contact centers, you know, they're seeing a much, much higher retention rate working from home than they did in the actual office. You know, communication has evolved. Yeah, customers expect every interaction with you to be effortless. You know, we've all sat at home. You know, we want to be able to contact the business that we need to speak to on the app that we're using at the time, and it's forced many businesses, you know, online retail, transactional customer service, where they had no presence before, into looking at online engagement today, and which is very likely to continue post-pandemic, not because customers are now used to it, obviously a very great point, but the cost savings that digital channel, you know, to serve a digital channel is considerably less than it is to serve a voice channel. And we've seen the wide adoption of mobile devices that have opened up these other channels customers reach out to you on. You know, so chat is a very, very popular, which has now exploded. Email, writing reviews, posting on Facebook, tweeting, WhatsApp, you know, numerous channels that we expect people to now get involved in. So, you know, what has changed, you know, we can see very quickly, you know, then is somewhat subjective depending on how fast your business moves. But, you know, traditionally 9 to 5 business, 3 channels, which are the traditionals, voice, email and chat. Quite a reactive service, so wait for the customer to call in and then we'll do something. Fragmented service, so it could be that your customer's calling in about an email they sent the day before, you know, chasing up something like that. The agent can't put their hand on that information. And very time consuming to do that. And now what we see is that customers want to interact with you 24/7. It may be that they've had a busy day, they get home, traditionally the bank, whatever it may be, would be shut. You know, Sterling is a great example of this. You know, with Sterling, you can go on at any time, have self-serve, have a look at your balance, do those payments. You know, we can send in a WhatsApp, you know, any digital channels, great service. Yeah, very proactive. So, you know, doctors, medicals, great. They've seen a real upturn in kind of digital channels in this day and age, because obviously it's not been safe for doctors to meet with patients. You know, but SMSing, you know, you've missed your appointment, you know, those are things we can see that are becoming more and more popular all the time. That 360-degree view of your business. So, you know, not just what is happening in this particular skill, you know, but actually what is happening throughout our business, who's saying what sentiment is being conveyed. And an individual, people want you to know who they are when you call in. So that deep integration into the leading CRM such as Salesforce, etc. So when I dial in, you know, the system can make an extrapolation and really a really good educated guess about what I'm calling in for. But even if it can't, it knows exactly who I am and the last time I called in, whether I've got any emails outstanding, you know, and it's extremely easy for the people to use. So the new customer experience, I mean, what does it look like? I mean, at the moment, it's quite messy, you know, and at Ringcentral, we try to bring some, you know, we try to bring some value to that, you know, which we do with many of our customers. You know, as I say, customers expect a consistent experience when working with a company, and they want a service on any channel they want 24/7. I mean, and this means for organizations, it's getting ever more challenging, ever more complex, you know, different touch points throughout the business. You know, how do you bring all these together so you can serve your customers well? How do you get a single view of your customers? And siloed teams tend to operate, you know, so most people will have a multi-channel policy. You know, they'll have people that do voice, people that do email, people that do social media. But how do you know if I've sent in an email about a query when I've rung in on a voice call because that's my choice for today? So it's important that people can interact across these many platforms and be able to understand, you know, what that customer is wanting and the communication between other agents groups and having those analytics to deal with those as well. Now, what we're seeing as well in our contact centers, to be able to, not just the visibility of those channels, but being able to escalate between those different channels as well. So somebody emails, and then they follow up by another email, and what they're talking about is quite a complex subject. So wouldn't it be great if you could just escalate that email to a call directly from the email? Or people like web chat now, where we've seen in this pandemic, because not only is it easy, they can see what's happening on the screen, they can correct their spelling mistakes as they go along, so they feel like they're in control, but they also have a record there and then of exactly what the interaction would be. But wouldn't it, if that web chat is getting really complicated, that we could just escalate that there and then into a voice call? So really nice things that come together. As I talked about, it's really important that we stop dropping siloed kind of communication tools. You know, the environment we work in is incredibly fast moving, and we see things that are being brought to bear every single day. So Google and Apple are actually churning huge amounts of money into development around their products, around Google for Business, Business Chat, Facebook Messenger for Business, Instagram, TripAdvisor, WhatsApp is now going into business solutions. You know, WhatsApp adoption during the pandemic has been phenomenal for us, for what we can see. You know, it is definitely a channel of choice. People will adopt it very, very quickly because they're using it in their private life. They're familiar with it. And it's also seen as being pre-authenticated. Because you've logged into WhatsApp, you feel secure using WhatsApp when you're talking to that far end business as well. But we don't know the next channel that's coming along. So it's really important that our systems are as open as they possibly can be. And obviously AI is coming front and fast very, very quickly. So smart routing, chatbots, virtual assistants are going to be challenging to keep delivering great customer experiences. It's all gone mad. And of course, there's a risk of doing nothing, yeah? And that impacts everybody. You know, on the customer experience side, inconsistent customer experiences across different channels, endless wait times, unnecessarily long agent interactions. Once you do get through, you know, actually, you know, there's no solution. The answers frustrate your customers. They reduce their spend. They could leave, move to your competitors, you know, so there's a distinct risk of doing nothing. You know, on the business side, you know, not knowing who is calling, you know, having to transfer to get to the right people, having to hunt around through multiple applications to find answers to basic questions, you know. And agents represent 2/3 of the cost of managing your contact center. So an inefficient agent experience adds significant cost to the organization, as well as the effect it has on customer experience as well. So, unsurprisingly, I'm going to tell you what Ringcentral do very quickly. Yeah, so Ringcentral Customer Engagement is our contact center as a service tool. Ringcentral is a cloud-based application, so we have no hardware, it's software as a service. And it's cloud is kind of our DNA. We don't have a hardware product that we've moved to a data center or the cloud. You know, we're born in the cloud. So it's a true omnichannel product. It has rich analytics running from beginning to end. It's incredibly open. So, you know, those business applications, those Salesforce CRMs, you know, we can use that to enhance our own product and in turn enhance your customer experience by using that rich data to make sure that we route better or identify customers easier, quicker, and that everything is included within a single interface. And the UCaaS integration, Unified Communications, is also important, and that sits as a foundation under our product as well. So we talked about effortless experience. You know, we can do that extremely easily. It's all browser based. So if you have a browser and if you have an internet connection, you're on Ringcentral Contact Center. So for our customers in the pandemic, log out in the office, go home, log in with the right security permissions, and you're taking calls, you're taking digital channels from your customers. So it's been a pleasant experience for our customers, and that we've just been kind of giving them extra capacity, working on extra channels, as opposed to trying to retrain them on how to do remote agents. Yeah? And our products go from inbound to outbound, to workforce optimization, to digital. Yeah, and that collaboration piece is really important. So we have the ability to be able to pass contact center information between back office and front office. So that manager who doesn't really want to log on to the contact center, but really wants to know what's happening, especially in the distributed workforce, can get up-to-date information on his mobile or his iPad about everything that's happening in there. And we talked about very briefly about anywhere architecture. So we are active. So if we had a complete outage in one of our data centers, we seamlessly fall over to the second data center with no loss of service, no calls into Ringcentral, no manual intervention. Security is something that's built in, not bolted on. So what does that mean? It means that we only do relevant security. So let me pick up 2 relevant pieces. So we're independently SOC 2 tested, so we can give you a drains up review of everything we do security wise, and we're happy to share that with any clients under NDA. We're also fully PCI certified. So for any contact centers doing secure payments, our data centers are already certified to PCI. So it gives that confidence factor in that as well. We talked about this, asynchronous communication. So our digital platform, which is known as Engage Digital, provides 20 channels today, but with a completely open messaging set. So whatever channel is coming tomorrow, we can have, with relative confidence, know we can integrate that. If you created your own messaging app within your business, if it's based on web services, we can integrate with that. So we have this omni-digital kind of philosophy. Now digital is fully integrated into our contact suite, or it can stand alone just to service digital actual communications. So everything from social media to social messaging to actually review type pages. And the challenge that we're now facing with our customers is what happens when somebody comes in on Twitter, somebody comes in on social messaging, somebody comes in on email. What our system does, it starts to build an identity of that person. So you can see their full journey, threaded journey through all those different channels as it builds a persona around that particular person. I won't spend an awful lot of time on this, but I've talked about it very briefly already. So with Pulse, we have the ability for agents to be able to contact back office, unified communications people, for managers to be able to see really key information that's happening in the contact center. So an agent who's on a voice call or any digital channel speaking to a customer needs to make a quick inquiry. We're on the call, can contact the back office via message or whatever it may be. The finance says, yeah, that bill's been paid. While the agent's on the call, they can say to the client, everything's absolutely fine, that's settled. Would you like to go forward with X? So first call resolution, great tool. As I say, it works on any device through any browser. So nice and simple to use. And this is essentially our product set. It's really simple. On the right-hand side, we have our cloud PBX, rich messaging, rich video meetings. On the left, we have our contact center services, inbound, outbound contact center, digital customer service, but with really rich analytic data running through it. Very open platform, global, standardized for every region that we work in. And of course, this is the piece we're actually all interested in. There's a goldmine of information in all of these applications, so integration is key. The more we can integrate, the more we can bring all this information together, the better we can service our clients. So make things more efficient, make agents more productive, which reduce costs and deliver better customer satisfaction. And Ringcentral makes it practical to do this. We can take the contact center out of isolation, bring in those omnichannel features. Agents have faster access to expert teams. Agents can conference, transfer, IM, different back office experts in order to have specific customer situations. And tools are available for communication with customers in the contact center and beyond, to different teams, that interact with customers, such as sales, collection, branches, your franchise, it's all very seamless. In a distributed environment, we used to be trying to do that over maybe 2 or 3 sites. Now potentially with your agents distributed from home working, that could be in 100 different locations. So just a really quick recap. So perhaps the conversation that we should be having isn't about where we are going to work after the post-pandemic dust settles, but more about how are we going to work. So we're looking at 3 really key areas for me: the virtual workplace and its accessibility. That is synchronous and synchronous communication. So staying in touch, no matter on the time zones, no matter on your working hours. And that results-based tracking. So, traditionally, how do we tell productivity? Well, one of the human ways to tell it is really look up from your desk, see how many people are on the phone, how many phones are ringing. But results-based tracking actually allows you to track performance and not the feeling of performance. And these elements are what define and enable remote work. And therefore maybe define what the new normal really works like. So that location independent business operation serving whatever channels our customers see. So just a really quick recap of what we taught there. So engaging customers and digital channels is key to success. We've seen that during the pandemic. We expect that to accelerate as we come out of the pandemic as well. We make it easy for agents and supervisors to work from anywhere. Like I say, a browser and an internet connection is really all that's required. No complex setup or configuration. At Ringcentral, we pride ourselves in the fact that our service is built for the business to use. So you don't need to come to Ringcentral for those basic moves, changes to IVR, announcement files, all that kind of thing. They're very much in the hands of the business. And your business continues to strive in any situation. Your contact center is never down due to that active resiliency. And you can have the confidence in the fact that it's secure and the confidence in the fact that it's PCI accredited. So if you are doing those transactions, you have that confidence of your brand image, and also that any of those fines going around, that, we're already kind of protected against that. And ultimately, the key one is the sum of all those parts. Really, your customers are satisfied and they know they can count on you. And really, that's what we want. That's what provides the economy. That's what provides the agent satisfaction. All of those things, provide the performance within the business. And that's really what we're looking for. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that was useful, 26 minutes of your time. I'm going to pause for a sip of water now, and then we'll do a quick Q&A if we have any questions.
Thank you, Mark. That was a great presentation, and I hope you all enjoyed that. And I think, Mark really raised some really key points, the way customers want to interact with companies now. I think we saw that changing anyway, but I think the pandemic has really brought that forward, the way that people want to be communicated with in different ways, depending on who they are and what technologies they have available. And a really interesting point about the WhatsApp and the Apple and the business side of stuff, that people feeling more secure or comfortable with those types of products because they use them day in, day out. And for businesses to utilize that, I think is really key for engagement with their customers. So I think that's a really great point. So as Mark's now had a sip of water, we'll move on to the Q&A. Feel free to drop any questions you have into the little bit bottom part of your screen in the Q&A. We did have some questions on the registration form, so thank you very much for that. The first one comes from Kelly, Mark, and that is: how do we return to business as usual when COVID-19 continues to interrupt service delivery?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Yeah, and as I said, I don't have a magic wand. What I can say is that I'm working, very closely with our customers to make sure that what we've realized during the pandemic, this talked about digital deflection, bringing in extra digital channels, but actually making sure that we have that flexible, consumable service that allows people to move and adapt very, very quickly. As I touched on Ringcentral's customers, there is no adoption from the fact that we don't have a difference between an in-office agent and a remote agent. So when the pandemic hit our customers, they logged off in the office and they logged on at home. So they would be able to take 100% of the features that they were using in the office and reutilize them at home. So it's kind of expanding on that, allowing our customers to integrate with CRMs, etc., very, very quickly, and to bring that to bear. Because once we've done that, location is kind of irrelevant. You will have those features wherever you are.
And so I sort of following on from that is how people reacted through the pandemic. How do you think that will affect customer loyalty? Do you think that will be redefined post-COVID era due to the way that people, changed and adapted during these last few months?
I think the greatest surprise, I think, for maybe many businesses is how well they've performed, based on people they can't see. And what I mean by that is that, as I said before, they may particularly run contact centers that are over 2 or 3 sites. And it's very much human nature for the supervisor to look up from their desk, see 50 people on the phone and be happy that, we're being productive, etc. Once you suddenly send all those 50 people home and you can't see them, then analytical data is very, very important. So I think that biggest surprise during the pandemic is the ability to still service our customers in the same way, if not better, because now you're relying on kind of specific information that's coming from the contact center, as opposed to a feel whether you're busy or not.
And then, so the next one is from Christine. What do you feel the impact of COVID-19 will be on contact centers in Q1 and Q2 of 2020?
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball. Yeah, I do wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, what we are seeing is that we're not seeing a reduction in staff, which I think a lot of people were expecting. When you move to digital, we expect, people think that will reduce the number of voice calls, but actually what it usually does is increase the number of digital calls. Yeah, so people can be retrained, revitalized around that. I don't know over and above that. Yeah, we build a lot of confidence into our remote services. We're talking to lots of people, as alluded to on the call. I think people that potentially were nervous around cloud, those last few barriers for cloud adoption because of its speed, its inbuilt security, have kind of gone away. So we're seeing a very fast uptake at the moment on people that want to move to cloud that potentially were maybe 1 foot in cloud or just thinking about it. So I would expect a rapid move to cloud-based services, at the beginning of the new year.
And I suppose following on from that, so what would your advice for people that are sort of navigating from older software or legacy stuff that they had before, but looking to move into this sort of newer software and cloud-based digital transformation? What would be your advice for those people?
I mean, it's very important that the business does that self-evaluation first and understands, as much as possible where they're trying to go. Yeah. I would say from experience, people that try to hybrid, so they try to do partly on with the legacy and partly with the new, track themselves into an area where they're reporting their analytics, etc. They never line up because you're neither in one place or another. So, rather than trying to do that, it's usually better to draw a line in the sand and say, we're going to do this moving forward as a strategy. Now, we can ease that pain, but actually, you want to make the break and fully invest in where you're going as opposed to where you're coming from. And we can help with that migration of data. So you can leverage what you've got, but you're using that within a different application.
This one's probably a bit more sort of targeted to a certain sector, I suppose. But Katie asked, how would you adapt the takeaways for a medium-sized charity?
How would you adapt the takeaways? I'm not quite sure I understand that question.
So in terms of the things that you've talked about in your presentation, how would you focus that for charities, I suppose? Would that differ to other sort of industries?
No, not really. We deal across the spectrum. So we deal with everything from public sector to financial organizations to charities. Yeah. What tends to differ is the commercial modeling because of their customer bases, but not the features and functionality that are intrinsic within our system. So how it's a very flexible system. It's adopted through many different business units, so it's the modeling of the solution that's slightly different, not the actual product itself. But, I'd love to talk about that in more detail if anybody wants to contact me.
And then I suppose with that, I know the Ringcentral have done a few things during this period of time. What things have you done to assist your customers, or certain verticals, when they've come across these sort of financial crisis? What sort of things have you done to help out?
Yeah, so some of them I can't discuss. Ringcentral are, we're a very flexible company. We're top on right-hand quadrant of the Gartner Square, but not just because of our products, but our ability to execute the partnerships that we enter into. So very quickly we brought a COVID offer to market, so customers could take our contact center or our digital applications kind of free of charge for a period of time. We also work with customers that have had to experience large-scale furloughs, that we could do temporary adjustments within the contract to adjust those commercials. So we've been very adaptive to the organization. So, any conversation was taken on board. Not everyone we could answer, but we've tried to do our best to support people through this as well.
And through your conversations you've had, what have been the sort of main challenges that new or existing customers that have come to you, that have brought to light, when they're talking about the new normal? What things have they sort of said as challenges, I suppose, for them?
Yeah. Well, the new normal is, first of all, having that trust in your employees that they will work as they did in the office. So I think, I've always been an advocate of working from home, but not purely from home. I like to be able to work from home when I've got something really serious or important I want to do. When you're in the office, there's always somebody talking about shopping, or there's somebody shouting in the background. Also, actually, from a professional perspective, working from home has been really, really good because the environment's really, really quiet. Yeah. So I think it's that trust piece, that trust that people will do what they say when they're working from home. But we also have the tools. I've talked about that through this very brief journey we've been on. Those analytic tools to see exactly what people are doing at any one time. Not for the sake of Big Brother, but so you can report actively on performance. Yeah, calls, abandons are very simple, but that customer journey, that analytical data is really important. So, an agent, you can see what mood they were in when they were talking to a customer. In the customer journey itself, it's transcribing that from speech to text, so you can see exactly what was being said. For a supervisor, they can search on specific words to make sure that either they are being said or they aren't being said. And then they can react to those by changing things in scripting to adjust to that to give a better service. Yeah. So it's that working in a slightly different way, trusting the actual system to give you the information in order for you to be able to interact more intelligently.
Another question that's come in. We have offerings from our CRM provider with regards to Omnichannels. What are your thoughts on where other channels sit alongside voice, like CRM or CCaaS?
Yeah, it's personal preference. I think some of that. The beauty of our solution is that it's not lots of different parts bolted together. So if I give you an example of that, is if you're doing ACD, so voice, if you're doing digital channels, if you're doing analytical data, you're looking at all that through a single pane of glass. So when, from a simple administration, when you create an agent, it will create that persona through all those different applications. Yeah. And you can jump from those applications from a single pane. So you can be viewing a report, listening to the recording, dipping into what group that agent is part of, all of that from a single pane of glass. If you choose to do part of that in the CRM, then you're suddenly dividing your attention between two screens. Yeah. That being said, what our solution will allow you to do is that some people have a preference to do Salesforce chat, for instance. Our system is intelligent enough to be able to synchronize with Salesforce, allow you to do Salesforce chat, because maybe that's what you adopted as your first digital channel. So rather than work against it, we can work with it. So when you're on a chat, our system knows not to present a call to you if that's how you've set it up, and they work in harmony together. Yeah. So we can harmonize, and it's really down to the individual business needs. There's no right or wrong answer to that one.
I'm not sure if you might be able to answer this one, but I'll give it to you to see if you can have a go. How do you build in the human factor and emotional intelligence into your customer experience through your product?
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt that one. Whoever asked that question, I love that one. I can debate that for a long time, but I'm not going to answer it on this particular call. I think the human side of things is very important. I touched on it in some of our analytical pieces. We're doing a lot of work at the moment, that we're involved in around, it's all right to distribute agents, but some agents simply don't want to work from home. Yeah. I had one customer, when they told their 40 agents need to work from home, a good 30% of them cried. Yeah. They liked coming into the office. So there's that loneliness factor, that being involved. And as I say, some basic tools such as sentiment analysis, so you can see the mood changes of the agent, that constant contact through messaging. We have different tools in our analytics and our quality packages to make sure people are involved, but it's a topic in its own right, that one.
Yeah, maybe for another webinar. I definitely feel that, with all of these technologies and the way that companies work, there's going to be a bit of flexibility, isn't it? Depending on who the type of people that work within that organization, and having that flexibility of remote and the office type people. But at least that we've got the technology to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And I think the last question, which would be really good to understand on how Ringcentral has sort of stayed connected with their customers, and what measurements have you taken to maximise your customer engagement over the last few months?
We've been webinared to death. Yeah. So in general, we've taken the opportunity to reach out with our customers. We've developed more in-depth business strategies with our customers during this period than we've ever had before. So we've had the chance to really circulate background our contact center customers specifically, not only genuinely to ask how they're coping with COVID, but actually to ask, if there's anything we can do. Is it during COVID that we can help? Is it post-COVID? Yeah, so we've been very engaged at a contact center and the UC level, working in kind of this partnership with our customer base.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Mark. I appreciate your time today and answering those questions alongside your presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is the first of hopefully a number of webinars we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the year. So please feel free to put onto the Q&A or in the chat some topic areas that you would like us to cover over the next few months. That would be great for us to hear from you guys in terms of what you want us to do. So thanks again, Mark. Thanks for everyone for joining us, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone.